Good afternoon, dear ladies and gentlemen. UCMC continues its work, and we greet everyone who join us here and watch us online. The topic of today's briefing is presentation of the results of the first launch of the program Translate Ukraine that was implemented by Ukrainian Book Institute. Now the floor is given to the speakers and the moderator of the event. Good afternoon. I'm Oleksandra Koval, director of the state institution, Ukrainian Book Institute. And today we meet in the premise of Ukrainian Crisis Media Center in wonderful atmosphere. We have here interesting stars and the picture of cosmos, of space on the wall, and this provides an atmosphere for our discussion. And we believe that our program, Translate Ukraine, this is the achievement. This is really big achievement of Ukrainian translators. And also, this is a big achievement for international audience, and this is promotion of Ukraine through culture that is reflected in the literature. And here, in this Crisis Media Center, at this presentation, we have Olena Zemlyana. She is now our curator from the Ministry of Culture and Information Policy. Before that, she was working in the Ukrainian Book Institute as a deputy director and actively participated in the development and promotion of the program. Bohdana Neborak, she worked at the Ukrainian Book Institute, and then she came to this institution in order to launch the program of support for translations, and she succeeded in this. If not for her, we could not implement this program in 2020. Anastasia Gerasimova, she was among those experts who selected the projects for financing. First of all, before the start of this presentation, I would like to say that the program of promotion of Ukrainian literature abroad is one of the key areas of work of Ukrainian Book Institute. And this is really important that we started this work, and we are going to speak about it during our presentation. But first, I would like to give the floor to Olena Zemlyana. Thank you. Really, the program of support for translations, this is an important step. This is promotion of Ukrainian literature abroad. The Institute worked hard in order to implement this program and to launch this program. And I would like to say that the first results, they are impressive. The main task now is to develop this program further and to have more translations this year in order to provide them abroad to different countries, in order that people abroad be able to see that our literature is wonderful and to bring this program to a proper level. And this year, we are going to implement some legislative changes, and we hope that we will be able to succeed in this. So let's start the presentation. So this is Translate Ukraine program for support of translation work. The goal of our program is to increase visibility of Ukraine and Ukrainian literature in international cultural space. And we aspire to this. Maybe you know that Ukrainian language, Ukrainian literature belong to small literatures that were not visible in the cultural and literature international space. And We also have international activity to increase this visibility, and we are convinced that this movement has already started, and we will continue to develop it. Now, we may look at this diagram, and we may see Ukrainian Book Institute started the movement to international activity, and this is the influence on the number of translations. Here you see the data concerning the number of translations from Ukrainian into different languages, starting 2013. And in 2013, this was less than 10 translations. In 2016, when for the first time we started to be active at the international book fairs, then there were a little bit more than 40 translations. And you may see this movement in 2017. The presence at international fair was more active. In 2018, for the first time, we had a nice stand at Frankfurt Book Fair. And 2019, we repeated this. And in 2020, during lockdown, look, there is a significant increase. 120 translations were printed without any support. Publishing houses and 53 translations. This is a gray fragment on top. This is due to support of Ukrainian Book Institute. 30% of all the translated books that were translated abroad, they were supported by our program. So what conclusion can we make? We should be more active and participate more actively in international fairs. 2020 was a year of lockdown, and we do not know what will happen in 2021. Nevertheless, some fairs say that they will happen offline, some fairs will be online, and we should provide for big participation in the major fairs in the world in different language markets. And here on the slide, you may see an interesting information about the countries where they bought the copyrights for publishing Ukrainian books. The first place is taken by Bulgaria, 121. For about 10 years, China, 102. Then Poland, 47. Slovakia, 36. And the United States, 32 titles of the book. And these are the results concerning the countries that bought the majority of books in our program. Poland, they translated 9 books, Bulgaria 5, Germany 5, Armenia and USA 4 names of books each. So here on the slide, you may see the main figures, the main results of our program. So due to some circumstances, there were some delays in legislative documents, and we started our program late in May, I guess. We got 84 applications from foreign publishing houses due to the contest selection in the framework of the funds we were allocated with for this program. We concluded 54 agreements with 45 international publishing houses. One more figure I've mentioned, 30% of all books that were published in 2020 were translated, and this was done due to the funds of our program. So we provided financial support for copyright for translation into for translations of Ukrainian literature and for translation itself. That is done by foreign translators. We conclude the foreign publishing houses conclude agreements with them, and then they are obliged to publish this book. In order to return their money, they are really interested, and they make everything possible in order that these books be distributed. So they promote these books. And for us, it is really important to establish constant communication with them. And once again, we will take part in book fairs, and outside them, we will try to support the efforts of those international publishing houses in order to promote our literature. We will organize visits of our authors abroad in those countries. Together with the international publishing houses, we will help them to get out promotion tours for our writers, and we will try to provide for their participation in the nearest book fairs and literary festivals. So here you may see that our books are translated into 21 languages in 24 countries of the world. Overall, we got for this program 5 million from the budget, and we were able to spend them, but in the result, in the agreement, it was concluded that the sum will be 4.680 million. This is not just the expenses of the budget. These are investments of Ukrainian country into promotion of Ukrainian literature, of Ukrainian culture, and Ukraine itself abroad. And these investments, we believe the state should increase each year. We want in the nearest future to reach some indicators that Poland has. They support nearly 300 translations a year. So why it is needed? It is needed in order that we be able to participate in Frankfurt Book Fair as an honorary guest, as a country honorary guest. And here you may see that due to our program, we entered some language markets. We started to enter them. So this is really important to speak not about separate countries, but about separate language markets. For all publishing houses of the world, English language market is really important, and we are starting to move towards this market due to translations in US. German language market, this is less than English language market, but it is really important due to Frankfurt Fair. Spanish speaking market, so the one translation was done to Spanish there, and we may start negotiations with the publishing houses in this market, and Arab language market. Due to translations in Lebanon, we start to work on this market.
Here on this slide, I hope you can see this slide in YouTube, on Facebook. not only this slide, but also the exhibition, this mini exhibition of our books. And we are very happy that despite all sorts of electronic documents and virtual communication, we nevertheless can enjoy hard copies of books. As of this year, we have published 53 books, 53 works of Ukrainian authors. Nevertheless, for the next year, when we expect to get bigger funding, we would like to present you not less than 100 of such books. In order to be able to do this, we have to announce the call for translations. We have to start the competition and awarding procedure. And in order to be able to do this earlier this year, we need to get support from the Ministry of Finance, and not only in terms of money allocation, but also in terms of approval of all the financial documents. And this gives me hope to expect that we will be able to publish these 100 books which are already scheduled for this year. Last year, together with the Ukrainian Pen Club, we had founded a special prize for those translators who translate Ukrainian books. In May this year, we plan to have the first awarding procedure, and this will be a big event for Ukrainian translators, because for a long period of time, Ukrainian translators had been saying that they feel themselves a bit discriminated because they feel no support, no reward of at least moral reward from the nation. And very soon, on April 23, we will hear who will be nominated to the shortlist. Also, we plan to strengthen promotion of published translations, at least, if not this year, but since 2022, we plan to be present in all the big book markets, book exhibitions in the world. And also, we are thinking about the World Congress of Translators from Ukrainian. Similar congresses had become tradition in many countries, and we plan to do the same here in Ukraine. And I hope this will make possible for us to meet the majority of translators, to hear about the to get them known, to see who they are, what they need, and to know more about their challenges. Publication of the books abroad becomes much easier when the authors meet translators actually in person. When in terms of this approach, congresses are very useful. This is actually the first step there are not so many translators from Ukrainian language in the world, and we hope that the newly established Ukrainian Institute will provide assistance in this field. And of course, we are here very much dependent on the promotion on behalf of the Ukrainian state. That is, what business opportunities they will create, how Ukraine would support the copyright, how Ukraine will promote Ukrainian studies, support Ukrainian studies around the world. Now, I would like to give the floor to a person without whom this program would not be started. This is Bohdana Neborak. And Bohdana will explain us why she had launched this program and how she came across this idea. Thank you, Ms. Koval. I believe this is a great moment in our life, because this is the moment when we are able to present the first outcomes of our work. In the situation of strict lockdown, when we realized that it became possible to implement our project, we could not believe at the beginning, and I would like to thank to my colleagues who made it possible. I would comment very briefly on the program. The first comment is as follows: it's rather difficult to do anything for the first time, even when you are in the public sector and have resources, and you quite often hear statements that it is impossible because it never had been done like that. And I can say that try and you would realize that this is possible. The second statement is as follows: that existing in the times of very prompt media, we observe that everything expires and disappears extremely quickly. But look at this mini exhibition. This is about, these are books about Ukrainians who live here, who dream here, who create life here. And this is done with the language of slow media. These are stories, these are reports, these are media stories, these are children's books which tell funny stories or teach children something practical. And this is done, all this is done by just a single translation program in Ukraine. If you compare the budget of this translation program with other public programs, you immediately would find big advantages. Boris Huzyak keeps saying that we live in the times of networks, and the biggest capital are networks of people who surround us. I believe that those readers who want to know more about Ukraine, there are people who want to share these treasures, intellectual treasures and creative treasures of Ukraine and offer something new. This allows us to get together around this new project, and I'm very happy that together with the Institute of Book we managed to make it possible. With this, I would like to stop my presentation to give the floor to those people who would like to share this first experience. I'm going to give the floor to Andriy Lyubka. Two novels by Andriy, due to this program, were published in the UK and in Macedonia. Andriy, could you please share your impressions why this program was useful? Good afternoon. First of all, I would like to thank to all members of the team for this experience, because I had been continuously hearing about the need to create a program for publication of Ukrainian books, and not so many people were able to seriously believe that this may happen, and but nevertheless it happened in the midst of corona crisis, and two my novels were published in the UK and Macedonia. And when I hear that 43% of Ukrainian books published abroad were published with the support of this program, but I should say that without this program, the books would not be published. For example, one of my novel, Karpit, was translated back in 2017, but the publisher had been searching for support, and the same is true about my second novel, Chio-Chio-San, which was translated by Igor Stanoyosky in Macedonia with the support of this program. And for me, it's a miracle in our country where the bureaucratic system is rather frozen, and on the other hand, I myself is a translator, and I translate into Polish, Serbian, and Slovakian, and also I got doing that, I got support from that states, and I can assure you that Ukrainian program is working better than Polish one. In Serbia, the bureaucratic level of the application is also very cumbersome, and this creates obstacles when you want to participate in translation program. Now, when we look at the first results, first outcomes of this Ukrainian program, we feel satisfaction, and we may expect for more serious results in some 3 years when foreign translators, when foreign publishing houses would understand that this is a serious project, this is a serious approach. Actually, this 1 year period is not enough, because you need, for example, more than 1 year to translate some big books. And when foreign translators would see that the translation program is continuous, that it lasts more than 1 year, then they would apply for participation more eagerly. Due to very bureaucratic approach in Ukraine, many people used to be skeptical about the success of this program, but now we see obvious results, and I'm very happy about this. Whether we have Igor Stanoyosky connected. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Igor. I'm pleased to be here. Could you please share your experience when translating Andriy's book, Andriy Lyubka novel, and what was your experience of cooperation with the Ukrainian Translate Ukraine program? Well, my experience was very positive. The book is easy for translation. I liked the book, your site, Chio-Chio-San, and it took 2 months to translate almost 300 pages of this novel. I'm fully happy about your program, Translate Ukraine. I'm expressing this my point of view as a translator, as a publisher, and as an author. I believe that this program is extremely important, and just an example, I've written 3 novels, and the plot of this novel take place in Ukraine. In Macedonia, some people now say that they would like to go to Ukraine to look at the streets, which I described in my novels, but for Macedonian writers, for Macedonian authors, we do not have such a program as you have in Translate Ukraine. We have we have only an attempt to establish it. The previous government tried to do that, and the special committee was established in the Ministry of Culture, Macedonian Ministry of Culture. The current government had pushed this project aside, and now Macedonian authors and translators have to search carefully where this program is, then wait for several months for the decision of the ministry whether they are going to support the translation of the book and provide a grant. And as a Macedonian author, I can say that your Ukrainian authors are in much better position. I have registered my my publishing house in 2019 with the purpose to publish Macedonian, Czech, Polish, Slovak authors. Perhaps perhaps a bit late, we will see. And at the moment when I established my publishing house, I was dreaming about support to translation of Ukrainian books, and the miracle happened in just 1 year after that dream. And fortunately, my colleague from Lviv University, Alla Tatarenko, who chairs who is head of the chair of Slavic philology, she she told me about this program. I used to reside in Ukraine for long periods of time between the years 2003 and 2013, and when Allah informed me that there were just 3 days before the deadline, and she suggested Andriy's novel for translation, and I read it, I liked it, and immediately we signed the contract with Andriy, and we are very happy that everything happened so quickly. Now the situation in Macedonia, we have only 2 translators who can translate from Ukrainian. Except me, there is Vera Chorny, who can translate from Ukrainian. So as of now, that's it. And I think not more than 5 books had been translated into Macedonian from Ukrainian language. Macedonian market is rather small, only 2 million of Macedonians, 2 million people in Macedonia, and of course without support from Ukrainian program Translate Ukraine, we won't be able to translate and publish Ukrainian books. In the times of my stay in Ukraine, I attended attended presentations of many Ukrainian books. I love Ukrainian literature, and I believe that is now at the much higher level than many European literatures in general. I would like to wish you happiness and success and luck as a publisher. I'm always ready to be your partner. Thank you, Igor. I think we can hope for further translations in Northern Macedonia. We also have Andriy Kotsyuba, who is leader of the Ukrainian publications in the Harvard Institute of Ukrainian Studies. Could you explain to us why you wanted to have these books in these Ukrainian books? Thank you for this opportunity. We value very much our cooperation with the Ukrainian Institute of Book, and we are happy that we managed to implement this program despite all the difficulties. We clearly understand what's going on in Ukraine. We are familiar with the situation in the East, the difficult situation in Ukrainian economy, but nevertheless, we like the fact that this is published. Ukrainian Research Institute was established in 1993, but before that, since 1970s, Professor Pritsak and his colleagues had launched the research program for Ukrainian studies. The objective of it was to publish literature about Ukraine and research research about Ukraine, and also books of Ukrainian origin, so to say, Slavonic books. Before that, there was a big interest towards Ukrainian studies, not only in Harvard University, but in Northern America. Moreover, there was a big Ukrainian diaspora who were interested in preservation of these connections with the Ukrainian intellectual life. They decided to allocate funds for this, and we started to work. So this allowed us to start our work independently from any external economic supporters. And on the other hand, we are very much interested to find partners in Ukraine who would be able to provide us with high quality books which deserve to be published and promoted abroad. Since for our publishing house, research and studies are the most important things. That's why we are more oriented on studies of Ukrainian practices, experiences, and we are more focused on the literature which could be recommended to professors and students. The names of the books which we have published with the support of the program shows in what we are interested. Thus, the book of Yuri Kostenko, Nuclear Disarmament of Ukraine and its meaning in history. Why this topic is important? Because nuclear weapon is among the biggest threats to humanity. On the one hand, it can protect the sovereignty of countries who have it. On the other hand, they are very dangerous. For Ukraine, this nuclear-free status is precious, but it is not widely discussed. And when Russia occupied Crimea, that issue was raised, and unfortunately the guarantors of the nuclear-free status of Ukraine did not use all the actions which might be done in that situation. On the other hand, Ukraine did not insist on preservation of the nuclear weapon, and it wanted to get resources for its development. And in the meanwhile, it had to plan more carefully to prevent what happened with Crimea. The second book, which we published with the support of Ukrainian Institute of Ukrainian Book Institute. This is the book of Oksana Kis, Ukrainian Women in Gulag. This is about terrible experience of Ukrainian women who managed to survive through terrible conditions in Siberia, and who managed to demonstrate higher standards of humanity and preserve Ukrainian spirituality and traditions in that horrible circumstances. On the other hand, this book clearly shows the conditions, horrible conditions in the Soviet Gulag, and Anne Applebaum, who is the author of the History of Gulag book, and got the Pulitzer Prize for it. She had provided a review of Oksana Kis' book and emphasized that Oksana is very courageously raising important topics. Of course, we do not expect that those published books will get immediately commercial success, but we believe them to be very important for the development of thought, and we try to ensure good quality, good publishing quality. We also try to use the promotion channels of the Harvard University, which is available for us, and present these books to the future elite members of the U.S. diplomacy, captains of industry, high-rank civil servants who today are members of the universities. As for our cooperation with the Ukrainian Book Institute, our experience of cooperation proved to be very positive, and this suggests that the country is doing some progress, and nevertheless, I would advise to look at the best practices in other universities. For us, the biggest obstacles were bureaucratic requirements. The Harvard University was founded back in 17th century, and when we received the requirement to prove that the existence of the Harvard University, they were slightly shocked, because nobody here has doubts that the Harvard University exists, and they were not ready to provide the documents which were required. What is also not easy for us, the short periods of time. Serious research requires time to be produced. First, the research itself takes time, then writing of the book takes time, and translation takes time. All that stages require a lot of time. It requires book for editors' review, scientific editors' review of the text. And we would appreciate very much if we were able to take longer time, more than 1 year, for publication of a book. The next, due to the lockdown restrictions, we have no access to our offices. We cannot work with hard copies, with papers, and this created additional unpredictable challenges for us to provide hard copies upon request from Ukraine. Nevertheless, we somehow managed to overcome these bureaucratic obstacles. Thank you so much. Could you add to final sentences? Summing up, I would like to say that in our opinion, in such programs, it is important to support translators who are able to work professionally on the translations. Then the next component is to support publishers who can take commercially risky projects, but which are important for the country. And the third component is to promote the research. And in order to be able to do this, we need to develop good criteria for selection of thus research. Also, we have Anastasia Gerasimova, who was one of the experts and worked with applications.
Please tell us about the story about genres and what were your impressions, and satisfied with your work. Thank you, Bohdana. Thank you, dear colleagues. I believe that the most important and the best words have been already said, but I would like to greet all of us and the main participants of today's meeting from the Ukrainian Book Institute as a person who have been working on the Ukrainian Book Institute, and I worked as a literature editor, and I know that everyone were waiting for this program. And about our expert group work for us, this was really interesting for us, and really this was important, and we understand that Ukraine should be properly represented in different book markets, and we had a methodology for assessment, and I thank the team of the institute, and we have wonderful moderation by Bohdana, and we had a lot of materials that were of quality, and they were well structured. It was a pleasure to work with them. Time was lacking, and I will speak on my behalf, not on behalf of the whole group, but I believe that we had a friendly atmosphere, and I have a right to speak for all of us. We wanted to deeply and comprehensively come up to the choice of the books. When I made this choice, I had many criteria, not only those that were included in the methodology of assessment. So this was quality, poetics of the book that was assessed, and also experience of translator or institutional capabilities of the publishing house, topic of the work, because we wanted that foreign audience would see this diversity in genre and style of the authors from Ukraine. Also, we wanted to support literature for children and for teenagers. It has great potential in Ukraine, and we are really glad that some books, they are translated, they came up to the new market, to the new level, and also I've compared the topics of books that I wanted to be supported, for example, translations that go to Ukrainian market, what books are of interest here in Ukraine. And the same approach I had for the literature that we proposed to the foreign audience. This was not easy. I was inspired by this program, by these opportunities to promote Ukrainian literature in the world. It was inspiring that the Ukrainian Book Institute was ready to promote these books, and it's a pleasure that the state was ready to provide funding for these books, translation. So this was really inspiring, and our online meetings were held in wonderful atmosphere, and I thank my colleagues who joined. We discussed everything vividly, and it was really great pleasure to work with them, and we were trying to promote our Ukrainian literature in the best way possible. And I believe that all translations demonstrate non-fiction, fiction, literature for children, literature reporting, poetry, wonderful non-fiction, and this is wonderful, dear friends. Thank you for this invitation. Thank you very much. We thank to the experts who worked for free, and they contributed a lot of their time. I thank our dear publishers from abroad who risked their money. They publish Ukrainian books, and I thank translators who love Ukraine and Ukrainian literature and Ukrainian authors. Especially, I would like to thank Bohdana, and I would like to thank her team of the Ukrainian Book Institute, and also the Ministry of Culture and Information Policy. And we work with them together, and we always count on their support. We thank the audience, and we invite you to like our page and to follow our news. If you have questions, please raise your hands and introduce yourself. Good afternoon, Andriy Megel. Thank you for this wonderful presentation and titanic work. I have a broader question. A broad cultural code is formed. The books are translated and promoted. Do you envisage to select classic authors, authors who are not alive, or you want to promote modern authors who are still alive? Thank you very much for this question. We understand that it is easier to promote live authors abroad because they are actively involved in promotion, and if we speak about classic literature, it is more difficult, especially those classic books. Due to some reasons, it was seized from literature, turnover. And we will celebrate the anniversary of Olesya Ukrainka, and Ukrainian Book Institute supported 14 volumes of Olesya Ukrainka, and foreign embassies or our embassies abroad, they address us and they say that we should publish such literature, but they say that no one knows Olesya Ukrainka. No one is interested. Those publishers, they do not know how to earn on this. And this is the issue we need to resolve together with the Ministry of Culture and with our Ukrainian scientists who work abroad. And we need to compile such a list, and we need to understand how to promote Ukrainian classic literature. Do you have other questions? A question that was put online. Do you have priority list of languages in accordance with the priority? We didn't establish priorities. We wanted to understand who is interested in Ukrainian literature in the world, and if the contest is too big to get this money for translation, maybe the Ministry of Culture and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs will identify such priorities. We do not do this. We don't have other questions. Maybe final remarks from the speakers. I would like to say that it's a pleasure to be here today and to hear such a good response from our partners who carried out such good work. And we should extend this program because there are some complications during preparatory stage. And I believe that we may do some steps, we may make some steps in order to help publishers and translators to create comfortable atmosphere for them to increase the number of translations. And I believe that we will be able to do all this. And I would like to say I would like to address cultural managers, translators, cultural managers Dear friends, we have wonderful opportunities. Please write, publish, contact with the representatives of foreign markets, because now we have where to invite them. There is a program that can be presented to them that we may be proud of, and to invite them to participate. I would like to add, today, this is an important event, and I would like to invite you to celebrate this day, and I would like to thank all those who listen to us, and we thank Oleksandra. Thank you very much for your attention. We wish you to have a nice